On this episode of Office Hours with Dr. Guy, rockin' Chapter 1, the literature review, and breaking out of ABD. Bring your questions to Office Hours with Dr. Guy. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Office Hours with Dr. Guy. I want to welcome you to episode 2. I'm exceedingly excited about the idea that so many of you already have viewed episode 1 and are part of the family. So, as always, just like I said at the end of the last episode, the whole purpose of this show is to serve you in working on your dissertation, because I know that there's so much misinformation and disinformation out there about how to put this thing together. And frankly, even though many people love some of the 60-minute, 55-minute, 45-minute lectures that I've put out, there's a reality that not all of us have that much time. And in addition to that, there's a lot of other people that will remain nameless out there in the world, people at your school, at your university perhaps, people online that are teaching what I think is valid academic information, but it's not operational, it's not executable, it's not something that you can easily go and do on your own, and it doesn't lend itself to more of a step-by-step approach. And that's what I'm all about, is strategy, step-by-step, and making things make sense. So the purpose of this show, on one hand, is to provide my perspective from that world of strategy and step-by-stepness, and in addition to that, it's for me to provide you some really key step-by-step strategy that you can take today and go and use. So with that, let's get into your questions. Jimmy asks, how do I start Chapter 1? Jimmy, thank you so much for the question. How do I start Chapter 1? So where most candidates think that they start is they need to start with talking about their study or some kind. They need to start talking about the problem. That's typically where people start. You know, when you think about most professors talk about this funnel that you're supposed to start really broad and go down really specific. That's somewhat true, but really the best place to start is with first of all, in one sentence, you should be able to tell me right now what your problem is. What is the problem that your dissertation is going to be focusing on? And really the best way to do that is to start by writing your purpose statement. Your professors will tell you the complete opposite, that you need to go do a literature review, a literature search, that you need to do all this research, and then you write your purpose statement. And that's true in a sense, but really, it's almost like I'd love to go to Las Vegas this weekend. If I have 2.5 children and an amazing wife, and if I had a bachelor's weekend of some kind, I'd probably go to Las Vegas. If I was to follow the advice of most dissertation chairs, the same type of advice they'd give for, writing your purpose statement that they would give, they would say, well, just hit the road and see where the road takes you. Well, I don't want to see where the road takes me. I want to go to Las Vegas. Now, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do there, but I know at least I'm going to Las Vegas. So I think for me, the first step is to say, you know what? I don't know exactly what my dissertation's focusing on quite yet, but I know that I'm headed towards this general direction. The way to do that is to provide a purpose statement of some kind. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, in the comments section, I've just added a link for you to, to see my video on purpose statements. And so start there, craft a purpose statement first, and then what is your first sentence of Chapter 1? What's it supposed to be? And your first sentence of Chapter 1 should be a sentence that just totally shows us the problem. And the way to do that is to quote someone that we could recognize by name and say something like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor of California, said, and then give a quote that just scares us, or that shocks us, or that makes us excited about something. Say, President Obama stated in 2015, and say this. So you want to get us excited about your problem and your topic right off the bat by giving us a pertinent quote that really gets at it, that gets at the problem that you're focusing upon. The whole time, you know that you're headed towards this purpose statement that you've already created. And this quote simply brings attention to the problem, the general problem that purpose statement is addressing. Michael asks, how do I write a literature review in the least drafts as possible? Michael, you are a man after my own thinking. In my opinion, this is where most candidates get it completely wrong. If you sit down and you have, on one side of your computer screen, you have a library window open, and on the other side of your screen, you have a Microsoft Word document open, your actual literature review draft, and you're typing back and forth between those, there is something drastically wrong. Really, to write a literature review on the first draft, you have to go back to that, probably what was in primary school or high school for you, of the writing process. They said, plan, outline, draft, final draft. That is the process that you actually have to employ, unfortunately, in the literature review. And I say unfortunately because most people don't like to do that. They're like, I don't want to outline. I don't want to do the pre-write. I just want to go, because think about it. What is going to produce a graduation for you? In your mind, or most people's minds, most candidates' minds, they believe that what's going to produce graduation for them is a finished dissertation. So what do? They sit down and write a dissertation. What I'm telling you is to really get a chapter 2, a literature review done on the first draft, step 1, you have to have a purpose statement. You have to know in general what are the main categories or variables that your entire study is going to be focused upon. And that's a starting point. It's like a compass pointing north. You don't exactly know what's going to happen when you head north, but you know at least what direction you're headed. Step 2, after you have created your purpose statement and you have those main categories, what you can do then is you can start getting lots of books, and I say books and dissertations about those main categories. And in my opinion, start first with dissertations and books together, but dissertations really can become the primary. You want to find dissertations that are similar to what you are writing. Clearly not exactly. It's nearly impossible to find a dissertation that's exactly about the same topic. And you want to go into their works cited page, and you want to see all the different books that they accessed. And I say books, and why books? Well, you want to get yourself lots and lots of books about your various variables and your topic, because books, they're much more of a solid form. There's people that they call them the seminal researchers of their field. They publish books typically. And so you want to start there because the big names are going to publish books. And you can get your hands on lots of books. Chances are, if you go to a great university, you have what's called an interlibrary loan program. I'm really fortunate. I went to a university where they had one of the best interlibrary loan programs I've ever seen. I could get unlimited books as a doctoral candidate mailed to my house with a return envelope, and I could read the book, put it in the return envelope, and drop it in the mail. How easy is that? Alternatively, many of your interlibrary loan programs are free, but you have to go pick up the books at your local library, your local campus library. Some of you are in online programs or hybrid programs that don't exactly have a physical library accessible. You might have to resort to going to half.com, eBay, Amazon.com used books, and getting lots and lots of used books. I have a massive doctoral library for my dissertation writing that I still have. I spent probably $400 on books. Was that worth it? Well, yeah, absolutely. Think about the advance in pay and in status and in my life. I was able to move on with my life. Was that worth $400? Absolutely. So step 2, I got my hands on lots of books. Step 3 is more of a dance. It's more of a fluid dance, not really a formal waltz. It's more like going to the club and just feeling how the music goes. You're going to start reading, and you're going to start seeing ideas that pop out at you. And those are the quotes that you want to write down. You want to get an Excel spreadsheet. You want to have the date of the publication, the full citation of the publication, and then the category of the publication. And then finally, you want to write down the full quote that you find as interesting. And how many quotes do you want to gather? Good question. I've seen probably the best number is somewhere between 250 and 500 quotes from various sources. You can't lose by really, in my opinion, this formula. 5 sources, 5 quotes each per week. So you're gathering 25 quotes per week. At that speed, it will take you between 10 and 20 weeks to finish at least gathering the quotes that you'll probably need to write the guts of your literature review. And naturally, you can speed up that process. If you're doing a block time of like 8 hours, you could probably get 50 to 100 quotes in a single day if you have enough books on hand. And then your next step after that, step 4, is to look for journal articles and everything back in time. You'll notice, by the way, that when I said back in time, what I mean to say is that when you're doing a literature review, you have to do the entirety of a history of your topics, your variables, I should say. So you have to go all the way back, as far back as you possibly can, and all the way back to antiquity. Now, clearly, you're not going to be getting ancient Greek books inside of your interlibrary loan program, but you got to reference those ancient societies in your literature review all the way to the present. That'll include journal articles and studies and such. And what you need to do is you need to categorize those by time period. You need to be able to say, this happened in this time period, this happened in this time period for this specific variable. And then you finish at the end by saying, researchers right now are asking us to answer these questions. And get this, the questions that those researchers are asking us are the questions that your study is going to answer. So does that click? You think a lot of people don't realize that the crescendoing moment of every section of your literature review is the current research that says that your study is the one that is going to answer the questions that researchers are calling us to answer right now, right here. And so where do you find those questions? Well, chances are at the end of dissertations in Chapter 5 in the recommendations section, there's going to be some very specific questions that those researchers are asking us to research. Similarly, in journal articles and studies of that nature, typically there's some recommendations for study at the end there as well, or some questions that are rhetorically posed in an article, and you'll see those. And finally, after you've gathered all those quotes, your job is to organize that Excel spreadsheet either by printing it out, maybe getting out some scissors and moving things around a table. That's the way that I like to do it. I'm old school. Another option is you just do it digitally and you organize your quotes, and then you sit down and you actually write your literature review. So that is a way to do this. I have so much respect for people that are wanting to write a literature review on the first try, and the way to do that, to respect yourself, is to start by not trying to write the literature review before you've gathered all the quotes necessary to do so. So start by gathering lots of quotes between 250 and 500. Probably more on the 400 side is the safe bet. And then from there, you're going to have an amazing literature review. Paulette asks, I've been ABD for 3 years. How do I make progress after such a long period of no progress? Paulette, I completely feel for you. Chances are there are dozens, if not hundreds of people that are watching this video that are in the exact position in which you sit. Every single person at some point finishes coursework, except for maybe the 7 people in your program that finished their dissertation during coursework. I have no idea how they did that. Maybe they just had a different set of priorities than you and I did. I had a family. I had a brand new wife. Well, I guess I had a brand new wife, and she was my family. And she kept me distracted enough. We were going to Disneyland. We were having fun going out to the beach. And not only that, but I had a job. I had a full-time job. I had 2 full-time jobs at one point, trying to get ends meet so we could buy a house and move out of my father-in-law's place. And the reality is that being ABD, I don't know the exact percentage, but for 9 out of 10 people, this is part of the process. So on one hand, being ABD is par for the course for many people. So don't sit there and feel like you're in this place of shame because you're ABD. There's also this other group where life has run away from us. Something has happened, and that something could be something as like a disaster in our lives, or some kind of major major thing. Like maybe we've changed jobs, maybe our family has needed us, maybe we have just needed a break, maybe procrastination's just set in. And in either case, there is no need to beat ourselves up over that and just to stop. Instead, it's what do I have to do today to make progress and to get moving again? And that's the exact question that you're asking. And the way to do it is just to understand the patterns that have led to this whole thing from the get-go. Like I said in episode 1, writing a dissertation and finishing is one of the most uncommon things that a human being can do. So the only way to finish is to do uncommon things and do things differently than the other people that are ABD. And so the way to do some uncommon things to do, one, we have to create an environment that allows us to work on our dissertation. And the way to do that is to put pressure on ourselves by getting ourselves out of our homes, out of our places of work, out of wherever we've attempted to work already, and get ourselves into an environment that is solely for the purpose of writing the dissertation. Rent a closet at a local business and use that closet, and it could be just an office with no windows, for the purpose only of writing your dissertation. And there's nothing in that room except for an electrical outlet and a Wi-Fi signal for you to plug in and get started. That's number one. Number two, block time is absolutely necessary. This trying out at the end of our day, 1 hour, 30 minutes, simply probably has not worked. So we have to go maybe on Saturday mornings, maybe we're out the door at 6, 7 a.m., no later, and we're over in that closet at that local business and we're working for 6 hours until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we go and we have our Saturday life after that. Third, we have to have the honest discussion with people in our lives that love us, that if we do not finish this project, there's going to be a hole in our life that is not going to be filled. We're always going to feel like we left this piece behind, for good or for bad. And so if you want to finish, then we have to have that conversation with our family. I had to have that conversation with my family and say, look, I got to get out of here and I got to go down to this office that I need to rent so that way I can get this thing done. And that's when the progress started to manifest. And finally, the reality is that there's activities that lend themselves towards writing a dissertation and activities that don't. And I'll say that there's no middle ground. You are either writing a dissertation or you're not writing a dissertation. There's nothing in between there. Either we're in our office working on writing a dissertation and we're not being distracted by anything else, or we are not writing our dissertation. There's nothing in between. So many candidates focus on all the stuff in between writing their dissertation and not writing it. They're emailing their chair these questions. They're talking to their friends about writing the dissertation. They're talking to other candidates in their program about writing their dissertation. None of that matters. Going to additional doctoral seminars to get more experience about how to write a dissertation. None of that matters except for getting into our work, our solitary work environment, our cloister, as one of our lovely commenters said the other night, our monastery environment, and making the effort to write our dissertation. And what I love about that idea, about sitting alone and writing our dissertation, is that is discipline, that is a sacred activity. You know, think about it. The whole purpose of our lives up until this point has led you to want to write this dissertation and finish. And so, in my opinion, if heaven above has offered you that purpose to write this dissertation, then you sitting in a solitary environment and writing that dissertation, that's a sacred activity. So if that sort of metaphor, if that sort of idea is interesting to you, put on that mantle, get sacred, go find your solitary work environment and get started. And beyond that, just know that anything short of that is not working on the dissertation. So everybody, I want to thank you for being part of this community. This is a community The more questions that you pose for me, the more ability I have to answer them. I will answer your questions right here on this episode as much as I can if you leave me a comment below. And I'm so excited to do this. I'm going to do this as long as I'm able to get comments from you, questions, I should say. I need questions to answer in these episodes. And it's such a pleasure to be here. I want to thank you for the belief that you have in me. To listen to me for like 15 minutes is a big deal. To give me 15 minutes of your time. And I'm so looking forward to what this community is going to create together and what you are going to do when you finish your dissertation and move on to the next phase of your life that is calling for you today. Go rock your dissertation. And if you like this video, subscribe, listen to me in your car on the way to work, play it to your children.